Green Lantern War Journal number 2, written by Phillip Kennedy Johnson with art by Montos, Alex Gamarez, and Dave Sharp. I'll tell you right off the bat, I don't think that I've given this book a fair shake. We're only at the second issue, which actually shocked me. Felt like we had so much story.
Yeah, because we had the backup.
Exactly. We had the backups in Green Lantern, and I didn't give it a fair shake because I felt like so out of place for what we were doing in that. We're like, why are we dealing with John Stewart's Dream World stuff from Dark Crisis? This is weird. And then I just stopped reading. And I must have read the first issue when I was off the show. But coming back now, it's like, well, I'm going to go back and I'm going to reread everything because I want to be able to talk about Green Lantern proper because Green Lantern's one of my favorite superheroes in DC Comics. And I want to see what's going on with John Stewart with his new Godstorm powers that he's dealing with, especially being outside of the core now that the United Planets has taken over. So I went back and checked this all out. And you know what? I didn't give it a fair shake because the story is actually really interesting. Not every aspect is all to the point where this totally makes sense here and there. Just think about what we had in the Dark Crisis Dream World that John Stewart was dealing with, where he was, pretty much the only guardian left for a new Green Lantern Corps in the future, right? Where you had Big Baby Revenant coming down trying to kill him, and he ends up killing that whole thing. Well, whether or not it makes sense to anybody, we have a multiverse out there. Somehow that dream world is actually a world in the multiverse. It's still out there and it's still in the future. And everything that John did in his dream actually happened on a world out there. Maybe the world continued on after Dark Crisis. I don't know how it works, but that's the thing. So Big Baby Revenant died, got killed by John Stewart. So the Queen of the Revenants, she came to try to get her revenge for her big baby being killed by the John Stewart. And in that, John Stewart's like, you ain't doing shit, bitch. And then she goes and he's going to kill her. She uses her power ring that she has and opens a doorway to the multiverse because if she can't kill this John Stewart, she's going to go and kill a different John Stewart because, I don't know, vengeance is just like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Which leads her and the Revenants
John Stewart
coming to our universe on Earth Zero. And she's coming here and she's going to take out this John Stewart who has the same kind of ability, but because it seems more new, because that other world takes place in the far future, it seems like he's dealt with these powers for a long time.
But even so, it's like a multiverse anyway at the time, but it did seem, that John Stewart older, and I get it.
And just how he uses his powers and stuff like that. He's more capable in what he's doing, and he actually is the living battery that his core actually, powers his ring off of.
So here's my problem, though. Is the idea you go into this series, and I see a lot of people saying it's great, but I don't see a lot of people being able to explain why. In the reviews or even videos, they seem confused. They like John Stewart. That's great.
Yeah.
They like some of the things like, the idea with him and his mom. He ended up going a little too far last issue where he's making constructs of his sister.
Well, as we saw him do in his dream world.
Yeah, exactly. But that's, that usually with a great, it doesn't work out well. We'll see. But the idea, this also ties in heavy with the Jeffrey Thorne stuff to get to that point, to go to this. And it's a lot of stuff that I don't know that a lot of people read. So when you jump into the series after the backup set, I don't know if everybody read those. You have a lot of, you went and did your, homework. You end up, and I read all this stuff, but while it was happening, it might be something that most people should go back and reread because as it was happening.
It's actually way better than I thought it was.
Well,
now that I understand
it was not even, going in my brain at all. It seemed very weird. I don't love the art. I like it a little better in this issue, but you end up where, again, is it too much to ask a lot of people to do that research or have read or remember the stuff to go here where he just kind of kicks in here and you're getting a lot thrown at you? But this issue I actually liked a little more than the first issue. And I'm here. Things are kind of, going forward with that, though. You see Jay Nakamura, that guy, what has he been doing? He looks
He's
awful.
He's a PR agent for Steel. He's been run ragged.
He looks like 70-year-old Elton John. That's who he looks. And at one point, John Henry looked straight up Charles Barkley, I thought. Like, sure everybody looked weird. They changed. At the one point, then he changes. Then he's this and that. It's weird. Also, actually, like at one point, even changes to look like Christopher Priest. It's a weird play. I don't know if it's a shout-out, but the art isn't consistent. It's okay. It's not my favorite. But I don't mind seeing John do this Revenant Queen coming. It's interesting.
Well, the Revenant Queen stuff, I'm all here for. So we take a short break in this for John Stewart to go to Metropolis to talk to John Henry Irons at Steelworks about the idea of hey, we've been working on this monorail system with this Genesis project, this new energy source that allows us to do all this great stuff. We're still having problems with this. You having an engineer or an architect background, maybe you can give me a fresh set of eyes because I trust you. And he has this whole more engineering for the stuff that he's talking about, but he's able to give them a solution to the problem with the Genesis power source they have. It's this weird side thing that I like the idea of John working for Steelworks and putting all that, because even when the Green Lantern Corps like was down in the 90s and like John got paralyzed and wasn't a Dark Star anymore, he started his own company and stuff like that. And you had Aricia working for him. It was a really cool side thing that like, was going on with John for a while that I enjoyed seeing because he wasn't prominent. He wasn't a Green Lantern. He wasn't super, like he was in a wheelchair, but I still liked seeing the character in this role that we know and love, because either it's like, we're going to focus on his military background, we're going to focus on him being an architect. And that's essentially what John has. And I like seeing him like here with the other heroes doing this with the powers that he already has, because he has godhood powers. But it really just takes away from the one thing I want to see with Revenant Queen, which I found so compelling, coming from this other Earth, coming here for revenge, and even the idea that this thing has some sort of power ring that's different than anything that we have on Earth. It's kind of close to something like a Black Lantern ring, because she's able to... It
looks like a Black Lantern ring, but again, because it's multiverse.
It's like a Star Sapphire mixed with a Black Lantern ring.
That's what I thought it looked like. And people were saying
it's a new power.
Yeah, well, people are saying that it's weird, like they're, okay, this is another multiverse. Maybe this is that multiverse is Katmatui. That's the...
Yeah, I don't know about that yet.
It's weird, but the whole idea of it multiverse and coming here, I don't know. It seems okay. It's nothing that really intrigues me that much. I just like when you go to Steelworks and I'm waiting for Sean Carey to come running by nude out of nowhere, the silver mist. So like, what the fuck's that guy?
Don't worry about that guy. He runs through here all the time.
It's nice to see John Henry and that stuff kind of connected
totally
to
cool.
other things. So that is cool. And again, you are playing, and you can see that Phillip Kennedy Johnson.
Because even outside of the constructs, like you never get to see John actually do anything with his architect. Like, I build stuff with my constructs, but actually having a life on Earth again, now that he's not a part of the Green Lantern Corps, I want to see what he does besides for take care of his mom, but that seems to be his full-time job right now.
And the problem is, too, that this, his power is registering as a Green Lantern power, which ends up where that's, setting off alarms that they have to keep coming.
Well, not only that, but it seems like the Revenant Queen's one as well.
Well,
because
now
right
she's
now,
doing it there.
Earth is a quarantine zone, so if these, rogue Green Lanterns who are working for the United Planets, they want to make a name for themselves by making sure that nobody in the quarantine zone, like they're not even supposed to be here, but they're trying to make a name for themselves by taking down like a John Stewart or a Hal Jordan, whatever they can find. But they keep coming across.
Last issue, they were sent there. Like that whole Varon was sent to take him down.
I don't know if Varon was sent, because they say in this, it's almost like he's not supposed to be there.
This is weird. I think that he's going back for revenge because he got
no, he is, but I don't think he was
last.
supposed to be there to begin with, though.
I think I remember him saying, like, I'm here under the authority of the United Planets. You are now registered.
That's just
you're
a
not
cop
supposed
saying
to have
he's
a
got
ring.
jurisdiction.
It might be, but something gave him the ping that there was the ring, and that would have pinged off.
His
And
ring.
they even say it in this. The idea that he's pinging, so they probably will keep coming. But I like that also if you go through the whole deal. Obviously, and we said, and we kind of could tell that Hal's ring of the will, that's not pinging, because they say this is the only one here. It's the quarantine zone. So it's kind of weird. But this,
well, I'm saying, though, it's so weird that John would ping because he doesn't have a ring. He has the power from the Godstorm, which I don't feel like should ping the same way that, like,
I still think that it pings
Hal
us Green Lantern energy.
Hal should as well.
Yeah, it's weird like that. But again, we're still trying to figure out what that ring might be. Maybe that'll be the reveal. Maybe we're seeing something here.
I just say that Hal's ring should ping more
deal.
than John's mortal abilities that he has right now.
It's weird. Like something there with the United Planets is pinging here that they go. I think that it might be too much because that would make waves after waves. Now, if we do end up where Farron's like, well, initially I came here and I kind of wasn't supposed to, that would make, but I swear he went there and it really was under the authority of the United Planets. Why don't know if John's like, what? The only one? Like, I heard Hal. Oh, God, he threw him under the bus there.
And even the idea of the United Planets going and do this, let's say that, like, because they're in control of the Green Lantern Corps, but Earth is under a quarantine. Nobody's supposed to come in or out of this sector of Earth and stuff like that. But we do have that piece of crap who's in, the chairman of the United Planets, that Durlin, who is still out there that he's talking about. Like, their father did stuff for him, and, like, that's why he's going to be the next regent of his family, even though he's a middle child. He has all these, he's pretty much a spoiled rich kid who thinks, like, look, I have to work here for a while with you slobs until I get to be part of my royal family. And that goddamn guy owes me something. But it also seems like he's like doing underhanded stuff outside the proper jurisdiction of the United Planets.
Like, I'm the middle kid, I have to do like, that's kind of pointing to me that you're really going to start to feel like you got to get rid of some people.
It really shocked me, though, that guy is still out there after Warworld and everything we dealt with that.
And that's the weird play, and that is from Phillip Kennedy Johnson's Warworld stuff. But also, again, another thing, it ties. So it's we love to have that synergy. We love to have that, and it really is going on here. But is it too much for some people, especially people who just, oh man, a John Stewart book I used to like. I love them in the cartoons. I'm going to join in here. I think it's a real heavy entry deal here for people who hadn't read that stuff, but somebody like you even going back, it does work. But like you said, my big thing of this and the Hal Jordan Green Lantern book by Jeremy Adams, what I really, really want to see is what the hell is going on with the United Planets. What is the core? And even in that way that we kind of,
Which is messed up because it seems like John and Hal want nothing to do with it, so we're not going to see it from their perspective.
But what's going on with Kyle? What's going on with Guy? And it's funny because when me and you talked about the idea in the
Guy still seems to be out there doing stuff.
Well, remember they said that, and here's the funny play, is when you end up having the idea of, oh my God, we got Kyle and Guy, but it says takes place before this stuff, whatever.
Right.
I did forget at that one point, you had that one-shot stupid issue in Doom Patrol where they both showed up and they were doing road racing, chasing down the Doom Patrol, which makes no damn sense. So who knows? I even said to the person who mentioned that, we talked about that. And I think there might have been an editor's note there. It
was either last issue or in one of the backups. You had John communicating with Guy using Green Lantern powers, and he was still in his Green Lantern suit talking about Green Lantern Corps stuff. So it seems like at least Guy is still a part of the Corps.
Yeah, it seems, but I hope that, because it seems like the United Planet, and also Guy was also at the beginning of the Fire and Ice book. He's been about where he shouldn't be, but you're not going to get the full connection in some of these books. But I want to know what's happening. Is the United Planets bad? Because it seems even Sinestro points out in the Green Lantern. So is there going to be a way where John has to join up with Hal here on Earth? They're going to go off and save their buddies and save everybody else? Because I do want to know what happened to Simon, what happened to Jessica. What are all those?
That's a good question.
What are they doing? Yeah, what are they doing? Why didn't they quit like Hal did? Why are they still there?
I still like to think that Jessica Cruz is a Yellow Lantern, personally.
That'd be awesome. That would be cool. That would be a cool deal.
And maybe even Simon, he gave up his ring or he hit up. He's just hanging out one of them sector houses because he's squatting.
He's in the sector house, and then all of a sudden, Teen Lantern goes and gets him. He got it all, Eric, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Where's Joe Mullen?
Yeah. And there actually, it was just announced that there's going to be a Joe Mullen mini coming up, but I didn't really see if it was connected in continuity.
And even that, her ring's different as well.
I know. There's weird shit going on. So all in all with this, though, you end up, like you said, I like this issue. I thought it was fun. Even if you don't know all the things, you are actually going to get John being nice to his mom. Yeah. And then end up using some cool constructs to take and actually confront the Revenant Queen. I thought this was going to take a lot longer, but here we go. We have the Revenant then going. And
you have John and his mom leaving Metropolis after getting this whole idea, like whether or not he wants to work for Steelworks, whether he get his mom to move to Metropolis with him and stuff like that, where she used to live when she was younger. And they are attacked by a bunch of Green Lanterns who work for the United Federations because they went off trying to ping some Green Lantern energy. Somebody has a ring they're not supposed to. But what they ended up coming across in the Amazon jungle is a downed, part of a space
satellite from the beginning of last issue. It was the first issue where you had that satellite go down.
We had a character, Jane, who had grabbed a hold of this ring while she was floating in space when she was separated from the satellite, and now the Revenant Queen has taken over her body. They crash landed down here. These Green Lanterns go to look for it, but the Revenant Queen is able to make more of herself, other Revenants, by pretty much making them Green Lantern zombies with this Revenant energy. And now these people are now foot soldiers for the Revenant Queen who are going after John Stewart, so the Revenant Queen herself can have her revenge against the loss of her big baby Revenant. But in the process of all of this, these Green Lanterns who have been turned into the Revenant energy are able to pierce John Stewart because unlike the John Stewart of the other Earth who's been doing his god powers forever and knows to make a protective shell against it that's unbreakable, this John Stewart isn't as seasoned with this new power, so he's pierced, and the Revenant energy is going to spread through his body, making him a zombie going forward. I'm like, this is some cool stuff, but I couldn't help but think about the future of this series if you go forward, because right now you have two Green Lanterns. Actually, I feel like we're eating pretty good as Green Lanterns, fans out there for the books that we're getting with this individual series that we have. It's fun. You have the Alan Scott's Green Lantern series. You have John Stewart doing his whole godhood thing, and you have Hal Jordan doing I'm the greatest Green Lantern with the most willpower stuff over in Coast City. You got some really cool Earthbound stuff that I really appreciate. But with these powers, even the idea of calling Hal Jordan the greatest Green Lantern that ever lived, you have John Stewart that's finally taking up the mantle that he should have had in the 90s after, not Cosmic Odyssey, after a Mosaic, when he first discovered these powers before he had his mind erased. Finally have him having this power of a new god, a mortal guardian, as they called him at one point. I want to see at one point Hal Jordan going up against this power that John Stewart has. For some reason, I want to see Hal Jordan versus John Stewart to see who would come up on top with the power that they wield.
or who comes out on bottom, Eric. You end up when you go, it's funny too, because in the spooky month of October, it's kind of cool because the Revenant, it's like a zombie, but also like a body snatchers type of feel that you get that feel. It's kind of cool.
It just kind of feels like another multiversal Blackest Night. And I really kind of dig that.
It is cool when they end up, we got to check this in the jungle. That's very horror-esque, and it's kind of a cool deal. I do want to know more and how this fits in. Again, I worry that this isn't an easy in for people just showing up for the number one last month and going. But I think
But if you go back and do your due diligence, it's worth it.
It's just, it's some people just don't have the time, money, or whatnot.
Especially if you're a Jon Stewart or just a Green Lantern fan.
Go and get the app. And really, I never thought that I would tell people to read the Jeffrey Thorne run because it is convoluted, but it does set up a bunch of the things as well. So maybe check that out.
I tell you to go read Mosaic, even though it's a very hard read, but you won't find it on the app.
Yeah, you can't find a little sus things going on with that. So it is dealing with a story that started but is kind of left behind by DC because of the
I just been sitting here since the 90s thinking to myself, when's this story ever going to come back? And it finally did. And crazy that they're continuing it.
I do say I said it a lot, even in the section of who is this book for or whatnot. It's for you, Eric. You've been waiting, and here it is. So here we are. And again, that's why I was glad when you came back, because this is a book that I recognize as something that I wouldn't normally read, and I'm not really, but you get me interested by, doing the little nuance things with it. But by the end, I end up like, at least we're going forward. It's tying in a lot of things with Phillip Kennedy Johnson. It might be better than I was giving it credit for too, but I'm still just a dummy. And when I read it, though, this one of the things, just the last thing, though, because I like the stuff with his mom. I like the stuff with Steelworks. You said, you want more of the Revenant. You want more.
Obviously, I like the stuff with Steelworks, too. It just kind of it puts a hold on the things that I actually really care about, even though I like it.
But you end up at twice it's mentioned that, that's the Green Lantern without the mask. You don't have to keep pushing that on us. We know that. That's a big moment for John. That's the whole thing, so you can see him cry and
he's
see
an
his
architect.
face and all that. But they keep, it's mentioned twice, and I'm like, all right, we get it, let's go on. But it's almost felt like that was, Phillip Kennedy Johnson, look, I understand the character, why people like him and whatnot, but I think that he's getting John pretty good here, and I like what's going on.
I especially just like him seeing this, outside of the Jon Stewart, the soldier kind of thing that he does with the Corps, because right now it really just feels like he needs to get his life together on Earth for the first time in a long time, but also just has to be the good son, and I like that aspect to it as well, even though it is weird, too, where he does bring back his sister Ellie, right, using a ring, not a ring contract, but just a construct of his powers, because I'm just thinking about the Guardians would be so pissed, because that's what Hal tried to do when he became Parallax, and
when we were talking, I said
you can't use it for personal gain, and but this is outside of that, and maybe it's just maybe that absolute power will start getting to him where he thinks he can adjust things because he does have the power of a god, just like Parallax did, even though he's not being affected by a fear entity. When
you have the god power and then you start playing God, it starts getting, and I said but
he's such a good guy, and it's so great to see the dynamic of that, to see, will he start sliding, or will the goodness inside him prevail?
Well, and even then, goodness prevail. He made that construct sister because he didn't want his mom to be upset. His mom kind of seems like she might have a dementia going. She has Alzheimer's. So he does that meaning well. And I think that could be dangerous, too. The idea that he's not going to mean. I don't think that Jon Stewart ever gets to a point where he's like, I'm a god, you assholes. But he starts thinking things it could. And I said,
well, we saw that in the one possible hyper time when he took on the Godstorm.
Exactly. So when you end up having Hal trying to bring back, because it's not like he was like, I'm going to bring it back because I'm evil. He's like, nobody else is helping me. This happened. So he had, and I think that was the start of holy shit, John, you can't do Parallax shit.
Which is funny because that was the start of John not having that power anymore and never being referenced again until Jeffrey Thorne brought it up the other year.
I'm waiting for, and I thought maybe even this issue, I was waiting for a deal where all of a sudden it's like, oh, go check on your sister. We haven't heard. And goes in and her head's half off and what's happening to me? The idea that she's going away and she doesn't understand it or things like that. It could be a really cool play.
I don't fully understand how John's powers work with their limitations and stuff like that, but I always think back to the idea when Kyle was the only Lantern. At one point, he created a construct that he forgot to recall, and it gained sentience and became oblivion. So I'm like, does his sister do that too? Does it become evil? Because, that's what happens.
I was actually thinking of almost like a Kirsten Dunst in Interview with a Vampire of when am I going to get older? I'm just a little girl. This isn't fair. Like, you're going to have this construct that just is like, why did you do this? Like, what am I? What am I really?
And the thing
What's
is,
the
you
soul,
say that,
Eric?
I'm there for it because that's some hella drama.
Yeah, that would be cool. It's crazy. You could have a real either horrific story, real feels with that. Oh, it would be pretty crazy. In the meantime, not wanting your mom to realize what you had done or what has really had happened to his sister is pretty crazy. But that we'll see if that ever gets brought up again. I think it would. I think that was set up. But what would you give this?
I feel so bad for just dismissing this series, though, and even the backups, because of, like, I didn't fully understand it. Because it still doesn't work for me, the idea that this was the dream that John had in the Dark Crisis stuff, crossing over to be something that he's dealing with now, but doesn't seem to have the memories of what he did there. So it's still kind of weird in that aspect, but I'm really enjoying everything we get from the backups leading into this series and what we got so far. And it's funny, I really feel like when I was writing my notes for this to do the credits and stuff, I'm like, all right, this is issue number 4, right? No, it's only number 2. Man, it feels like we had so much story.
Because there's so much that led into it.
Exactly.
True. We've dealt with a lot of these things for a while now.
But I think the art's great in this, besides for a few things with like Charles Barkley, John Henry Irons, and stuff like that. But overall, I enjoy it, and I'm really digging the story and look forward to where it's going. So I'm giving it a 7.8 out of 10.
I am a 6.5. Again, I don't have the connection that you have with the character or the Green Lantern. It's not my thing.
So many cool things you could do with the series that I look forward to.
Yeah, I look forward to that as well. But as a 2-issue deal, not even including the Bible, which you should. But again, not everybody's going to read those. And I barely could tell what was going on in some of those when I read them. I might have to reread them myself. But overall, with this, I'm enjoying it enough when we talk about it. It wouldn't be on my pull list. I wouldn't actually
normally
have
it wouldn't. I didn't think it was until I went back and reread it, but now it would definitely be on my pull list.
And then we'll see how it works out and how it goes forward. But I think it might, again, like that Jeffrey Thorne, again, it wasn't that great, right? No. It ended up doing, but even then we were wondering about like, who knows what led into that to get to that. And we're just keep on going. And it makes sense. We're going from what came before. That's fine. But we're just adding stuff onto stuff that people either didn't really buy, it got canceled, or it's stuff from before that it's really hard to access, like the Mosaic stuff. But that's cool enough. It's a deep dive, and people seem to be enjoying it enough. I wonder what the sales would be, but we'll see how and long it lasts and all that stuff. At points they're like, oh, it's going to be an ongoing, but we'll have to see if they announce that. But or it could like meld into side. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens with it. But did I say 6.5 and you're what did 7. you say? 7.8. So you're way more positive than me. See, sometimes I'm a little more negative, Eric.
Yeah.
You thought I was playing the game of trying to be more positive than you just to prove a point. But yeah, these books weren't bad. Like all 3 of these are good enough if you buy them, whatever. And I'm not going to say they're horrible. It's just each one has a little bit something that I want.
It's funny too
more
for me right now. Like I said, the idea of Green Lantern fans eating well right now with Alan Scott, Hal Jordan, and John Stewart all having their own series. Because one thing is, why I'm a Green Lantern fan, I'm not a huge Green Lantern fan outside of Earth. Once they go to do Space Cop stuff, it's not always for me. But when you have them on Earth, I get so excited and so happy, and you have all 3 of them doing Earth stuff.
It is funny that this is like, you have to be on Earth because of the way it's set up with the quarantine. So that's pretty cool. So
you are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.